Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to another StarCraft video. Now today it is time for my very first commentary of 2019. I am really excited for this game because it is a Zerg versus Protoss, one of my favorite matchups, and it's a very long game. This is by far the longest game that I could find that was recently played in professional SC2, so I'm excited to figure out what it's all about. Obviously I haven't seen the game yet myself either. I just saw the replay timer, but usually, right? Usually the longer games are the really epic ones. So let's find out what it is all about. Now, as always, I want to get started today by introducing the players. Spawning here in the southeast corner of Parasite LE and playing with the blue Zerg drones. He's from Poland and he goes by the name of Nerchio. Obviously someone who I've casted many times before on this YouTube channel. And his opponent spawning here in the northwest corner of the map, playing with the red Protoss probes. I've casted this man many times before already as well. He's from France. We are looking inside of the main base of DnS. Now, it seems to me that a lot of the games that are really long, a lot of the games that I end up casting that are really long, are played on Parasite. Is that just me? I feel like this is the map that most of the games go really long on, or at the very least, if a game goes really long, it's oftentimes on Parasite. Maybe it's to do with like the ramps leading up to like the center part of this map, obviously on both sides. It does mean that it's pretty difficult to get up towards the high ground, I suppose. There's a lot of potential for like static defense right over here, for both players, obviously. For Zerg in particular, you can get a ton of like static defense set up, for example, over here as well, and it's relatively easy to defend. Now, obviously, the high ground advantage in StarCraft 2 is not as big as it was in StarCraft 1. I think it's actually the same in Warcraft 3 as well, but basically in StarCraft 1, if you are on the low ground and you're trying to shoot at a unit that's on the high ground, there's actually a percentage chance of you to miss. So I don't know exactly what the percentage is. I think it's like 39 point something or so. I'm not entirely sure, but regardless, there's a pretty large chance that your units miss. That's not the case in StarCraft. There's no missing in StarCraft 2. Units pretty much always deal damage as long as you see the attack animation. They've cleaned that up a little, I suppose, in that regard, but there's still no denying, right, that just the vision that you get from being on the high ground is very valuable. Anyways, looks like we are up for a Stargate Opener here once again. Obviously the gold standard in the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. In patch 4.8, Blizzard recently tried enabling Protoss players to go for the Twilight Council and then the Robotics Facility as an opener as well, but Stargate just simply provides you so much value. You can go for obviously a Phoenix, you can go for an Oracle, and both of those units are really good at staying safe, but also at keeping track of what it is your opponent is doing. And I don't think that is going to change anytime soon. If you want to play a macro game, I mean, the Phoenix is just so useful when it comes to denying, for example, these Overlord scouts. And then the Oracle follow-up is really good at not only just harassing your opponent, but also keeping track of their army with Revelation, as well as you being able to take that third Nexus a little bit easier. Because early on, when you think about it, there we go, the Oracle is following this up as well. But early on, it's mostly going to be Zerglings that can try and deny your third base. And obviously, the Oracle is excellent when it comes to cleaning up little units, like, for example, those Zerglings. So I really don't see that kind of thing changing. They did, by the way, change the way that sentries can use hallucination now. So it used to be, I believe, 100 energy. Nowadays, it's 75 energy, which comes into play very often in Protoss versus Protoss. Technically, you could do like an hallucinated Phoenix Scout is what I'm trying to get at, but even then, right, you're still going to be in trouble if you spend a lot of gas early on making, for example, a sentry. And yeah, I don't really see the meta shifting anytime soon away from this Phoenix Oracle-based opener. Third hatchery has already been acquired here by Nerchio, as you can see. Even though he did see the Stargate here, he still ended up getting himself a lot of solid defensive units out. Those Spore Crawlers are ready to go. The Queens are already in position as well, and it does look like DnS is gonna try and maybe do a little bit of damage here. Maybe lift the Queen in the main, there we go. And now use the Oracle to get a couple of those worker kills. Ooh. Well, only a single kill there, actually. That's not impressive whatsoever. He actually ended up miscontrolling that for a little bit, and even the Oracle ends up dying. The queens, they did end up getting the final hit there, which is really nicely done for Nerchio, because immediately you can see him holding down that drone button. He's gonna try and get as many workers as possible. Basically for Zerg in this matchup, it's a race to going to 66 plus workers, okay? That's basically what you're going for. Great scout there as well for Nerchio, trying to get that vision right here of the third nexus being planted. Normally a third nexus comes up right around the 5-minute mark, and while in this case I think that DnS may have gotten himself a couple more units before getting the third nexus started, he is still gonna plant it down at a very reasonable time. Now DNS's follow-up is what looks to be a Archon drop. Is there already a Prism out? There should be. Where are these High Templar being morphed in? For some reason. Normally you click on the High Templar and it's gonna jump over there, but regardless, I guess they may have already been busy morphing into an Archon. But here we go, the Warp Prism is gonna start being a nuisance here very shortly. We do see the charge follow-up as well for DNS, so he actually took himself 6 gateways. That explains why the Nexus was a little bit later there. He's got 6 gateways rather than the normal 4. That does mean that DNS is gonna be able to pile on quite a bit of pressure, but look at that, Nerchio already preparing for that. Putting the queens here in position, he's got himself a lot of roaches out as well. He is going for the drone follow-up right now though, so the question is, did he not maybe over-drone here for just a little bit? Well, here we go. We'll find out in just a second. Queens are gonna be used right here for the defense as well. Great little bit of usage right there of the terrain by Nerchio. At the same time though, the Archons are coming from the right-hand side. They're gonna try and deal as much damage as possible. Worker-wise, it hasn't really cost Nerchio a whole lot just yet, and while the Prism did end up... Oh man, I love that so much. Look at that. That little Spore Crawler. The one that was used in the mineral line here earlier, right? It actually just shoot away that Prism. Otherwise, DNS would continue juggling over here with those 2 Archons. But eventually, it does look like our Protoss player is going to be forced to back up. But obviously, while any damage that he can do is nice, what Protoss is really looking for with these kind of openers is slowing down the Zerg player to go straight up to their worker count, right? And on top of that, obviously DNS used that wiggle room that he had as well to go up right now to watch that third Nexus. Now, this is cool. All right, so Nerchio going for a... Is that on purpose, you think? Ooh. He's going for 2 Hydralisk dens as well. That must be... Huh? I was gonna say, if you assume that you accidentally forgot yourself the Hydra Den... No, he's queuing up the upgrades. Interesting. If you assume that you forgot yourself the Hydra Den, normally you would not immediately queue up a second one and then go for the Lurker Den as a follow-up, right? I guess Nerchio may have been slightly distracted there, going for a second one here. Apparently already putting down the Infestation Pit as well, so he is looking to play that super passive, late-game focused army more than likely. We see double upgrades coming up. Already a focus on Carapace, which is quite curious. A lot of Zerg players lately have once again been shifting back to missile upgrades as well as melee upgrades. Basically, Hydraling Bane it's been on a bit of a comeback, I suppose. I've personally been playing a lot of Ling Bane as well, and it feels really good. But in this case, Nerchio is gonna do what he feels most comfortable with, and that is an 8-minute hive. He's gonna be able to get himself those Brute Lords out much earlier than you would normally expect it from a Zerg player. Now let's have a look at what DNS is doing. DNS is transitioning towards Psionic Storm. That one is at a reasonable time. He's getting himself the Forge upgrades right now as well. And he's already got that very standard Archon, Immortal, High Templar, Zealot-based unit composition. It's the unit composition that basically counters all mid-game armies from Zerg. Right? It's very good against pretty much everything that Zerg can make in the mid-game. But the one unit that obviously this is really, really bad against is gonna be, of course, the Brute Lord. So it comes down mostly here to what DNS is planning to do. If he goes for a big push, there's a chance that he can deal a tremendous amount of damage right before Brute Lords are out. And Protoss players, they've really gotten very good at figuring out exactly when that hive will be coming up. Now, so far, it hasn't been scouted just yet. DNS is going to try and send this Prism in towards what seems to be the natural here of Zerg. I think that him being aware, though, of the hive timing would be very helpful for him. Spire is coming up, by the way. Obviously, Nerchio might be going here as well for that burrow speed upgrade. But at the same time, while this is going on, Nerchio is going for a bit of a push to try and deny the Protoss player a 4th base here for at least a little bit. Now, this does look like a bit of a sacrificial army, though. Muscular Augments only just now finishing up. So these Hydras are going to be able to be microed for just a little bit. If they wouldn't have had that upgrade, it would have been much more difficult for him to get into that position. The Prism, by the way, it did make its way all the way back towards the safety of the Protoss base. And now that DNS got rid of the Hydras, he grabs himself a 4th Nexus. So very passive game, actually. This is like the most classic way of playing Zerg versus Protoss right now. It really does allow both players to get their unit compositions up that they would like to get. A lot of lurkers are out right now. We do indeed see the Adaptive Talons upgrade here, which is the burrow speed upgrade for those lurkers coming up as well. And I think that DNS might want to go for a push right now before there's going to be that Broodlord army. So even though he didn't really scout the timing of the Hive, he knows exactly what it is he's going up against. Great Aspire is not done just yet, and that means that Nerchio is going to have to do it mostly with Roach, Hydras, as well as Lurkers. Now, that's a lot of Lurkers, though. That is a big amount of Lurkers. It looks like Nerchio is actually feeling confident enough to split part of his army up and to go for the counterattack instead. There's not really a whole lot available here for the Protoss player to defend, but obviously this might trigger Nerchio to be in a bit of a rough position, because DNS can just simply push up towards the high ground and be in a really good spot. Now, actually, ooh, I love that. Nerchio getting the kill right here on those destructible towers, and that means that the High Templar are separated away from the main force. At the same time, Nerchio is also killing the 4th Nexus of our Protoss player, and while eventually the High Templar will group up once again with this Archon Immortal Ball, there's no denying they've sort of missed their timing there, right? That was beautiful, actually, by Nerchio. Really nicely done. He even got himself the pylon kill right over there, too. So that's now going to allow these lurkers to start burrowing into the mineral line. And apparently, yeah, DNS is going to be forced to use that tactical recall to try and get these Archons into the battle. Now, I say that, I think they're actually stuck. Like, they can't leave. They can't get out of the natural here again. He might have to, like, kill some of his own buildings just to try and get those Archons out of their position here. Yeah, where are you going to go? They can't fit. Wow, that actually really does hurt him, though. Look at that. He's gonna have to kill so many. That is not what you want when you mass recall. Anyways, while this is all going on, Nerchio sitting high and mighty on 5 bases here already. He's gonna now finally start transitioning towards the Great Aspire. Calm and collected. He spent a lot of his additional resources on getting more drones, and he put down a lot of static defense as well. This is just him defending against any kind of potential Zealot, as well as, for example, Dark Templar Warpins. He doesn't want to take any damage against that kind of unit composition. He's basically sitting back. He's allowing Protoss to do whatever he likes, but he did slow down that Protoss economy, so he knows he doesn't have to worry too much about too much at this point anyway. Now, I do think that the Phoenix there did end up scouting, where's the Great Aspire? Well, at the very least, it saw the Spire, so it knows that the threat of a Great Aspire should be coming up as well, because already we see that Tempest transition here from DNS. Tempest, obviously, in the new multiplayer balance patch, they've changed quite a bit, and on top of that, we also have the Mothership coming up. So DNS is really looking to go for that super late game focused army. At some point in Zerg vs Protoss, you arrive at a point in the game where Immortals just aren't really worth it anymore. That's when you know you've truly arrived at the ultra late game. So I wonder if we're going to be going into that state in this match as well. But at some point, we usually see, you know, how, for example, Terran players sometimes throw away their SCVs because they just want to mine with mules in the ultra late game. The same thing can happen with Immortals. I mean, Immortals are great at countering all of the units on the ground, but at some point you want to replace the amount of supply that they cost with flying units instead. I wonder if that's going to be something that DNS will do in this game as well. Anyways, a big lurker move right here. Nerchio is going to try and... Oh, man. Oh, that's going to hurt. Yeah, he's going to try and burrow all of those units onto the high ground. One Overseer actually coming along with this party as well, which is really important, because obviously that does make this army much more powerful. At the same time, though, a lot of Hydras are eating those storms. 4th Nexus, once again, taking a lot of damage, and that was not a cancel. So that means that Nerchio, once more, got himself the kill there on that 4th Nexus. And while this is all going on, I feel like that's a bit of a theme in this game, right? He's building up that super defendable position here on his side of the map. He's playing all of his moves right. Up to right now, I haven't really seen any flaws in Nerchio's play. Maybe he's a little bit too passive, but he's got himself that dream unit composition that he wants. Look at the amount of static defense he's making right now. He's okay with Protoss having 4 bases, but if he can obviously get the kill that is exactly where he wants to be. When you're playing 5 base versus a 4 base Protoss, or even a 3 base Protoss, I suppose, up to this point, Nerchio is going to be in a really, really good spot. Viper's now coming up as well. Curious to see where this is going to go. In the meantime, though, DnS has realized exactly what it is he's going up against. Apparently, he noticed here that he cannot really slow down the Zerg player very much, so instead he's decided to go for his dream unit composition as well. And when it comes to dream Protoss unit compositions, usually it's anything that sparkles and anything that has lasers and anything that costs a lot of gas, okay? So when you're struggling with Protoss, just make the units that cost a lot of gas. Honestly, it's not a very bad guideline to go off of. Usually we'll see, for example, this Prism warping in a lot of Zealots because, you know, DnS is going to have to spend his minerals at some point here as well. But if he goes for a unit composition, right, based around Archon, High Templar, Mothership, and then obviously all these Protoss flying units as well, he's going to be in a phenomenal spot. This is already a very sparkly unit composition, right? I mean, Christmas time is just over, but apparently DnS has not noticed it yet. He's dressing up this Protoss army really nicely. Now, the thing about this Protoss unit composition is that it's very difficult to kill. DnS right now is maxed out, right? He's getting to the point at the very least. He's a couple supply off, but he's, for all intents and purposes, maxed out right now. He's going for a really strong unit composition. A couple of probes actually do end up going down there. But DnS, he doesn't really need the workers anymore here either. Whereas with Zerg, you oftentimes need to max out several times to try and kill an army like this from the Protoss. Protoss can just simply sit here on 48 workers just fine and maybe mine a little bit on the back of this, but he's got this one army that he can deal a lot of damage with. And right now, he's even getting himself a second Warp Prism as well, just to try and continuously put on the pressure. Oftentimes what we'll see is that there's a bit of a stalemate in the center of the map, but it's really the Zealot run-bys and the potential for Zergling and Hydra run-bys that are dealing the damage. So we'll see where this one is going to go. Here we go. A couple of Zealots are being warped in inside of the main base here of Zerg. The Lurkers immediately making their way towards that main base as well. They should be able to make short work of these Zealots, but it's just mostly here to allow DnS to move into a stronger position. Look at the amount of creep that he's already cleaned up. Now, this is a rough position for him to be in, though, because all of a sudden, right, there we go. The Broodlords are coming from the side. The Mothership will get abducted immediately, and the Corruptors do manage to pick it up as well. Great abducts here, actually. That Viper control from Nerchio is on point, and that does mean that most of this Protoss army will be forced to go back home once again as well. Excellent move there by Nerchio, once again, taking a responsibility and really taking control of this game. He doesn't want Protoss to fight through this part. Look at that. He wants to sit on the high ground. Well, there's no way DnS is going to be able to take a fight right there at this point. He needs to clean up at least some of those spores here. Now, that's one thing I guess that these Immortals are very good at. But look at that, right? Both players trying to basically replace... Ooh, once again, great abduct. Great snipe there, actually, on the Tempest as well. Like, the Tempest managed to get some of those Corruptors. But both players are replacing all of their units to flying units. And that's when you know you've arrived at a very late point in Zerg versus Protoss. There's still obviously Archons left over. There's still Immortals left over as well. There's still Lurkers left over. Maybe some Hydras here and there. Actually, nope, there's no Hydras whatsoever. But those are mostly a unit of the past right now. Air Weapons level 2 will be finishing here for DnS. And actually a couple Zealots now being a nuisance over here too. They're gonna continuously be annoying. I've got a feeling this is likely gonna happen for a little while longer. Great zoning here though by both players. They both try and be really clever here with their decision making, trying to outsmart the opponent. Anyways, one of these days though, we're gonna see a game that's just not gonna end. I feel like at some point we're gonna see a game of ZVP where both players will just simply mine out every single mineral patch. Parasite obviously does have these bases over here as well as the corner ones. So obviously it's mirrored, but we see the same thing right now. Yeah, usually these are not the bases that are taken very often, but they certainly do have minerals on them. But I feel like at some point we're gonna reach a skill level where everyone is just gonna be so close in skill and the balance is gonna be so tight that a map will be completely mined out. And at that point, you know, both players are gonna have to crash. They're gonna have to clash against each other. Well, this is actually rather annoying. DnS using now one of those... Oh man, that actually is a kill on the Spire though. That's gonna hurt him a lot. He wasn't upgrading there anyway, but that still is gonna slow Nerchio down quite a bit. Apparently, it's the task of the lurkers right now to kill this. Getting the transfuse on them, and obviously that means the end of these immortals very quickly. But anyway, so let's take up inventory. We don't see any air armor upgrades just yet for DNS. You know what? I kind of would like to see DNS taking a second cybernetics core. I think if he gets himself a second cybernetics core and he just starts double upgrading here, he's going to be in a much better position. Sure, these Protoss air units, they have a lot of hit points, and sure, they are very beefy. But I do think that the shields upgrades as well as the armor upgrades are very valuable. Getting himself +3 though, +3 missile for, or +3 air weapons rather, is very useful. It is going to make in particular those interceptors far more powerful, but still. I do think that once you get maxed out, focusing all your energies on upgrades is super useful. Ooh, Nerchio. Looking for the snipe. Looking to try and abduct one of those things once again. Ooh, that carrier taking a lot of damage. At the same time though, a couple of those storms also did connect with a lot of that Zerg army. And obviously, most of those Vipers are actually hurt quite a bit too. They're out of energy as well. By the way, Nerchio at this point, I'll actually hold that thought. Ooh, we may very well have another big engagement. Beautifully done. Abducting all of those Tempests into all of those spores as well. Zealots inside of the main base, sniping whatever they can. And it does look like they're gonna get, at very least, one of those infestation pits for their troubles. But what I was trying to say there is that one of those control groups from Nerchio purposely has all of the Corruptors, all of the Vipers, as well as a lot of those Overseers on it. And what happens is that it's actually very difficult for Protoss to hit the feedback on those Vipers, because obviously there's a lot of those Overseers in the unit composition as well, and that means that it's hard to actually click on the proper unit. And usually that does mean that Protoss players will try and not so much feedback the Vipers anymore, just because they might accidentally end up feedbacking an Overseer, which is absolutely pointless. Anyways, eventually though, yeah. That War Prism, man, it accepted its fate there near the very end. Did you see that? It accepted its fate. It knew that it was over. And apparently that's enough. Now look at this. This is what I was talking about. Immortals trying to make their way across the map, just killing whatever they can. At some point, these lurkers are going to be rather pointless as well. You gotta keep in mind, though, there's not a lot of anti-ground here anymore for Nerchio. I mean, obviously he has Brute Lords, but these Zealot run-bys can definitely become a very frustrating thing to deal with him. Or can become a really frustrating thing to deal with. Anyways, where is this one gonna go? +3 carapace for the flying Zerg units. Not an upgrade that we see finishing very often. Does he already have +3 air weapons? No, he's only at +1 actually. So yeah, killing that second Spire with the Immortals earlier definitely was a rather big deal. Look at the amount of... Oh my god. How many spores is that right now? 53 spore crawlers. 50. I don't know if I've ever seen a game where there's 53 spore crawlers. That is insane. And 2 Hydrodents. Okay, they have achieved 0 purpose. Both armies, by the way, trying to outsmart each other. DNS, he knows that there's a lot of... Actually, I think that these lurkers may have just sniped the Nexus here in the top right-hand corner. But both players know that their ground army is eventually not going to be that useful anymore. So they kind of want to get rid of some of those units as well, without getting rid of all of it. There you go. This is such a weird dynamic, right? Normally, you would never engage like this unless you get into the ultra late game. And actually, well, that was a good trade for DNS, all things considered. Nerchio, he has been killing and sniping units here and there. He has been making a lot of static defense, but I do want to point your attention right here to the bottom side of the screen. There's really not a big bank for him at all. So he's been sacrificing a lot of drones in favor of a ton of static defense. He's actually not maxed out right now, plus he doesn't have a bank. And I think that's one of the things that, for example, someone like Cyril does a little bit differently. Obviously, it's mostly a preference thing, right? But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that really does give DNS a lot of value. Those Immortals are going to make short work of a lot of that static defense, and without... yeah, sure, that really slowed that down. But without, you know, without actually having a proper bank, it's really hard to replenish a lot of those units as well, once they inevitably do go down. Now, apparently Nerchio, though, he's decided to just simply give up this base. A couple Zerglings are even coming out as well. But it all comes down to this hit squad of Zerg units. He needs to try and abduct whatever he can. There you go. Ooh, a lot of feedbacks are being used, and I actually do think that Well, apparently he doesn't care, man. I was just talking about how usually Protoss players just stop feedbacking an army like this because there's so many Overseers in there. Apparently DNS doesn't care. He just dropped all of those Overseer energies pretty much down to 0 as well. Still, I think a trade that Nerchio will take most days of the week. Anyways, just because I'm curious, right? Do we have a bit of a low in the game? I wanted to check out the units lost tab. We'll do so in a little bit. By the way, a couple of Zealots trying to come over here, but the Brutes are located in that corner. Man, Nerchio is continuously looking. He wants to abduct some of those units. Snipe some of them as well. There you go. Beautiful kills. That's gonna slow down that Protoss army quite a bit. So, I feel like both players have taken a lot of losses, right? Should we have a look at the units lost? So, as far as units lost go, it's actually heavily in favor right now of Zerg. Obviously, both players have been mining a ridiculous amount of resources, but you can see the amount of resources lost right now is definitely in favor right here of the Zerg player. DNS losing quite a bit more. Actually, 7 Tempest, 9 Archons, 5 of those carriers. That's quite a lot, honestly. That's quite a lot. Anyway, he's got money for days, though. Still producing more and more of those carriers, and slowly but surely maxing out his upgrades. He's continually chrono boosting them out as well. Both players trying to deny bases as much as possible. The thing is, Zerg doesn't really want to engage without all of this static defense, so he's forced to slow push across the map with creep. These queens are actually super important. The creep spread is actually one of the most critical components of this army right now as well, because Nerchio, he's not going to engage this Protoss army, at the very least not right now, without all of his static defense present as well. But obviously, these spores, they can only be at one position at once. I guess they're technically static defense, but they're not so very static, eh? They're not like photon cannons. DNS, though, apparently has given his opponent the left-hand side of the map. He's now occupying the right-hand side instead. This base over here hasn't really been mined from at all, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, we are overdue here at some point for a really big fight. We all know it's gonna happen. We all know there's gonna be a lot of kills, and we all know that it's gonna decide the outcome of this match. The question is when? When are they deciding to push forward? Man, you know you've got a lot of storm, right? Or a lot of High Templar when you're storming a bunch of those changelings, as well as like feedbacking a lot of those Overseers as well, right? Anyways, it's gonna happen at some point. I'm curious to see when that will be the case. Oh, there you go. Another carrier will immediately be sniped, and that's now being one-shot. So Nerchio getting himself a lot of Corruptors. He's gonna be able to do so really nicely. +2 air missile or air weapons did finish up as well. So he is going to be able to start at +3 right now too. And both players are getting awfully close to having a fully maxed out army. At the same time, the Brute Lords made their way towards the top left-hand corner. They're going to try and see if they can potentially kill the Nexus. Now the Nexus will stay alive for a little while longer, but already I think the probes were recalled towards the top right-hand corner. The thing is, killing a hatchery or killing a Nexus at this point is nice, but if it wasn't mining any resources, it doesn't really do very much anyway. Nerchio, of course, he gave up this hatchery over here a while ago, but everything is mined out, and really the same can be said over here. There's still a couple hundred resources in all of those mineral patches, and definitely some gas as well. So maybe he wants to get this one, DNS that is, back up and running in a little while, but for the moment, he doesn't care all too much. It's all about these fresh bases, and also he can only position his army at one position at once, right? So apparently he's taken the right-hand side instead. Now this is nice. Killing a bunch of those spore crawlers for basically free is really nice to have. That's gonna slow down Zerg quite a bit. Well, I say that, and immediately 1,000 more spores and spines are coming up. The bank, by the way, what was lacking here earlier is now definitely present here for Nerchio. There's a lot of spore crawlers available still. Some of those interceptors will end up going down, but most of the Brute Lords are caught on the other side of the map, and they're gonna be immediately flying back. But since they are so very slow, and since they were out of position, that was a good trade there for DNS. Sure, he lost some of those interceptors. Sure, they got nerfed a little as well, but there's no denying that he definitely killed a lot more than what it cost him to replenish those interceptors. So that was really nicely done. I want to continuously have a look at this, right? If you enjoyed this game, Rifkin with the sellout! Did you know I was gonna cast this game? Obviously he didn't. Well, hey, you should go ahead and check out his YouTube channel, though. They make awesome content. And Rifkin, Base Trade TV in general is one of the reasons why I get so many of those replays that I can go ahead and cast. Mostly him and Wardy are the ones that cast a lot of the online events. Ooh, beautiful snipe there once again. But they're the reason why, of course, I am able to commentate a lot of those games. So definitely, I'll grant this one, Rifkin. Definitely go ahead and check out that channel. Once again, though, ooh, that's 2 carriers. Boom. +3 flyer weapon is just about to finish up. There you go. Nerchio does have that upgrade right now. Ooh, this is going to be such a weird game. DnS doesn't want to engage on top of the spores. Nerchio doesn't want to engage without the spores. He is abducting so much, though, right? Like, this is a scary unit composition. How many of... Yeah, okay, so there's 10 Vipers. 10 Vipers and 15 Overseers. How many Corruptors does he have here? 27. So this is such a scary force. It's really designed to abduct units and then kill them. At the same time, though, DnS made its way towards the left-hand side. The Spore Crawlers here are certainly dealing damage, but there's no denying that these units are being killed much quicker. Those spores and spines are being killed much quicker than, you know, they are able to deal the damage. Mothership now joining the fray as well. A couple High Templar actually are being picked off. Pretty important there. And there you go. The Brutes are now also available. Once again, couple big abducts there. He's going to be able to get at least 2 of those carriers. And the third one may very well end up going down as well. Mothership, though, instead being target fire down. That's the one that will end up falling next. Nerchio trying to get the value. Once again, beautiful move. Catching those Protoss units while on the retreat. I think a Zerg player in this scenario will always pick a couple of little Spore Crawlers over killing, you know, like 5 or 6 or so of those carriers and the Mothership. That was beautiful value. Plus High Templar too. So, I was mentioning earlier, right, how Protoss at this point in the game is looking to make a super gas-heavy army. It's also the one resource that Protoss runs out of really easily. Zerg usually does have some leftover in the bank. I guess the same can really be said for Zerg as well, though, in these scenarios. But there's no denying that DnS, whenever he loses a carrier like that, he's going to have a much harder time replacing it. Whereas Nerchio, he has lost a couple units here and there, but it's mostly been static defense, and that only costs minerals. So it's a trade, right? You trade mineral-heavy structures for gas-heavy units. And that's something that Zerg definitely wants to do in the early, or rather the ultra-late game. Oh man, this game is sick. This game is, I don't think it's over yet, right? Like, how are you gonna finish this? I don't see either player really finishing this right now. I really do like the position, though, that Nerchio is in. He's been playing this wonderfully. Not really making a mistake, although I think one of the key differences between the way that Nerchio is playing this and, for example, the way that we saw Serral play against Stats at the BlizzCon Grand Finals. We actually also had a sick game on Parasite there. If you haven't seen that one, you should go ahead and check it out. That was the final match of the BlizzCon Grand Finals. One thing that Serral did differently in that game is that he continuously maxed out his main army, I guess what we can say, like his main force with like 180 supply, and then like 20 or so supply was always dedicated to, for example, Zerglings and Hydralisk. So basically, he was keeping track of where that Protoss army was at. He was hunting for motherships and then carriers and whatnot as well. But he was continuously using Zerglings to do counterattacks like, for example, this as well. Now, obviously, we see a little bit of that right now, but I feel like that's one of the things that Serral was doing continuously. DnS has been allowed to take all of these bases. And that's the one thing that I feel like Serral wasn't really allowing Stats in that Grand Finals. Obviously, it's very hard to critique, though, players at this level. I mean, I just want to emphasize that this is one of those things in StarCraft that it's very easy to critique when you're an observer. If you're actually playing it, though, when you have limited information, it's very hard to judge, for example, where you want to put your Brute Lords, for example, how much supply you want to commit to making Zerglings, and, you know, how you can roam around with them. It's very hard to do that, right? It's very easy to play StarCraft in hindsight, in particular when you've got full vision. But I do think that's one of those things that a lot of Zerg players would be very good at. Oof, great abducts there once again, though. Another mothership ends up dying. Is that the third one? Yep, third one this game. Ooh, couple High Templar taking some damage as well, but the Zerglings once again being a nuisance. Now, I love this. 2 Archons actually dedicated with the task of stopping Zergling run-bys. Well, there's no way they're going to get through that. 43 kills, or 45 kills? That's insane. Once again, it does look like a couple of Protoss units there do end up dying. And both players, actually, that's kind of funny, both players have been losing workers left and right. So 76 probes ended up going down in the grand scheme of things here. Obviously, that's 27 drones that ended up going down as well, but a lot of them went down as, for example, a spine or a spore crawler, right? Like, I don't know exactly how many drones have been produced here throughout the game, but either way, we've arrived at a point where neither player really has a lot of workers remaining. DnS, he's now hovering in this area because that's where his last line of production is at. Finally, by the way, I think Protoss is now fully maxed out. Okay, no, he does still have one shield weapon or a shield upgrade to go, but I don't know if he wants to spend the resources on that right now. But anyways, he does have a very scary army. I love, by the way, the fact that right now he's going for the mothership, but also for more and more of these Void Rays. Void Rays have an ability called Prismatic Alignment. It allows them to deal additional damage to armored units. And obviously, these Corruptors, they are armored. So, yeah, I do really like the switch around right here. And to not go for as many of those carriers anymore, but to also start mixing in a couple of Void Rays. I think that's very useful. Nerchio, though, getting a little more ballsy right here, right? Being out on the map. He really wants to try and slow down this Protoss player. Ooh. Where is this one gonna go? The High Templar once again. Ooh. One storm to kill 5 of those changelings immediately. Good feedback right there as well. At the same time, though, the Brute Lords, they managed to break open the front door, and that means right now the Zerglings can start running in. They do have very good upgrades as well, +3 plus Adrenal Glands, so they are going to be very, very solid when it comes to fighting and doing these kind of run-bys. Still though, the Archon drops, man, 49, oh my god, it's got a stupid amount of kills. 56 kills on that one hero Archon. That's Tassadar himself right there. Oh my god, beautiful. Alright, so, what is DnS looking for right now? What is his method of winning the game? Because I can't help but wonder what his actual win condition is, right? Like, I feel like so far Nerchio has been the one that's been outplaying DnS, but we've all been in this scenario where Protoss has a maxed out army. And DnS, if he lands a couple good storms, if he gets himself a really good Prismatic Alignment, if he manages to push up a ramp where Zerg is just simply not present, he can waltz through this army so easily. Like, he can kill all of these structures super quickly. It only takes like, you know, 20 seconds or so to kill all of this. So it comes mostly down to, oh my god, Nerchio, man, going for more static defense. It mostly comes down right now to positional play. Apparently DnS, he wants to make himself another Nexus. He's going to be able to do so here as well. I think the Brute Lords might be needed over here instead, but this is going to be a very important... Oh man, another mothership! Another mothership! This is going to be a very important mining base here for our Protoss. At the same time, Zerglings apparently are going to be the ones tasked with killing this base. And look at the amount of damage they deal, right? It's insane. It's super quick. Apparently, they're also running to their deaths here. At least the majority of them will. But now that the Brute Lords are apparently on the other side of the map, I think this might be an opportunity for DnS to strike. I mean, he knows the Brutes are all the way on the other side. They're going to be able to kill a lot of these structures, shut down a lot of this Protoss production, which is nice, but it also means that they are not going to be on the high ground that they're trying to defend. That means that obviously the Storm and the Archons, as well as all of the other flying units, are all of a sudden a lot more valuable. If the Brutes are here, man, they could deal so much damage. Abduct, once again, going down, trying to abduct as many of those Protoss units into the Spore Crawlers. Prismatic Alignment is coming up, but that's a lot of Interceptors. The Brute Lords, man, they're on the other side of the map. They're desperately trying to fly home as well. I like the idea of Nerchio to go for that big push, but I don't know if committing all of the Brute Lords to that fight was necessarily worth it. This is pretty much exactly what you don't want if you're Zerg at this point, because it means the High Templar, they will not be punished here. Normally, you've got the Brute Lords throwing away their little Brutelings at all of those High Templar. The Archons also completely uncontested. That means that DnS can head into the main base of the Swarm. And look at the damage output. That is a hive going down in just a matter of seconds. I like this move though. Good little maneuvering right there by Nerchio. Likewise for DnS, he managed to get into a really strong position. Eventually the Brute Lords are finally here, but since they are super slow, they're not gonna be able to really do that much. And obviously, he could just recall. Just recall. I think that's what he's gonna do. Oh my god, that is so dirty. Woo, that is dirty. Oh man, that is frustrating. Okay, I can feel the frustration here from Nerchio. Now, when we think about it though, how much was really lost there, right? Sure, a lot of tech was lost, but the Great Spire is located over here, which is his most important structure. He's got himself all of the upgrades, so all he needs to do is just get the structure once again. Apparently, it's going to be a spawning pool in production here at roughly the 40-minute mark. But DNS definitely did manage to get some value there. Nerchio does still have a bank, which is good. But those are the moves, though, that he cannot make. Once again, the Brute Lords are moving across. I kind of feel like these Brute Lords could just be... Like, if say, like, it was, like, 5 Brute Lords fighting over there, right? They'd kind of, like, achieve the same thing. If he would have been able to get those couple Brute Lords left behind as well, he could probably shut down some of the Stargate production as well. I understand, though, if you only commit a couple Brute Lords, obviously, you know, basically any Protoss unit at this point in the game can easily pick it off. DNS, though, if he would have had this base up, I think he would have been the one at a clear advantage. Right now, oh man. Remember when I pointed out this base a little while ago? When I mentioned that there's still like a lot of resources left in some of these patches and obviously in the gases as well. Nerchio is now going to be the one to grab this. Alright, so this I love. DNS is going to be forced to put his units away, and that means, for example, the Brutals can swoop in over here to maybe deal a little bit of damage, right? I think these Zergling run-bys are super useful. Now with the burrowed links as well, it means DNS has to commit units in this area. Observer will come up, but it is going to make things a little bit more difficult. Nerchio, though, he's starting to look more and more like he wants to take a fight without the Spore Crawlers. He's been wanting to take a fight with the Spore Crawlers for a while, but DNS is not really engaging on top of those Spore Crawlers unless Zerg is out of position. I have no idea how this game is going to end. Seriously. Ooh. Oh, man. Big storms once again. Big feedbacks as well. Feedback, by the way, in the new multiplayer balance patch, it now deals half damage of what it used to do. So I think in the old patch, DNS would have been in a wonderful position. He would have killed so many of those Zerg flyers already with those High Templar, but it's not the case today. To be fair, High Templar are more than well-sighted enough, I guess, at this point as well. But, ooh, DNS, I don't know if you want to be here, buddy. I don't know if you want to fight on top of Spore Crawlers. I think that's a little bit risky. Yeah, Nerchio is feeling it as well. He knows right now that there's a chance that his opponent is going to fight over here. This is a position that I think Nerchio might be happy with. Still, though, it's a lot of Protoss. Yeah, he's caught at a bit of a weird angle. So apparently, rather than fighting here, he wants to sit back for a little while longer. Obviously, those spores, by the way, they do give himself that detection as well. Prismatic Alignment does get activated, and that means that Zerg is going to be on the run here for a little while. Once again, though, Nerchio is losing a lot of units. Those interceptors in the chase there, they're capable of dealing a lot of hurt. Once again, the High Templar for the zoning. Man, DNS is controlling this really well, taking calculated decisions. Really only approaching a fight like this whenever he feels confident that he can win it. Once again, though, oh man, the Brute Lords, they're taking a lot of damage there. They did end up taking care of some of those High Templar as well. I don't know exactly how many of them remain. Actually, it's 0 at this point. So all of the High Templar are now gone. DNS took a fight that definitely went in his favor, but he lost one of his most powerful assets, and that's the High Templar. Without Storm, without feedback, this Protoss army can definitely be killed. Still, though, while I've been talking for a while about how DNS is running out of resources, the same can be said right now for Zerg. I mean, all of these bases, they're basically out. Nerchio, as far as his bank goes, he's got very little remaining. Can we have a look, actually? Yeah, he's mining 0. Well, he's running 27 minerals in a minute. No way. Nerchio is not mining anymore. Like, he's lost a lot of money in Spore Crawlers and Spine Crawlers. At some point, it seemed like his mineral bank would never be depleted. But right now, he's recognized it as well. He's realized, you know what? I might need to get myself a hatchery over here. But if he wants to get a hatch over here, there's no creep spread. He's not going to be able to get himself the static defensive position to take the fight. Likewise, DNS can do the same. DNS still has some money in the bank. He could take this base. If he takes this Nexus and he mines from it, he's going to be in a great spot. Oh my, no way. Nerchio, he's lost so much during this game. While units lost was in his favor earlier, oh my god, man, look at the amount of resources. Over 100,000 resources lost. That's insane. Combined, obviously, but still, that's insane. 53,000 minerals lost. And DNS, he's been mining out a lot of his bases. Also, actually, and this is noteworthy, I think, unlike the way that a lot of Protoss players play, DNS did not commit a lot of minerals to making a lot of those photon cannons. Most of the time at the late game, we see Protoss players making a ton of photon cannons to try and you know, prevent the Zerg army from just getting in there. DNS made a couple in every base, but not nearly as much static defense, obviously, as we saw Nerchio make. Nerchio now using that queen that he's got since the beginning of the game to try and push the creep forward. He needs to get into the position over here. DNS, though, now long distance mining this unit, or this base here. He's got a super strong army here, and he does have that high ground. Oh man, he finishes the base. He's gonna start mining from a fresh base. Nerchio doesn't have that luxury. There's no more minerals to take on his side of the map, only a couple here and there. Yeah, once again though, the Protoss army is feeling confident. One big fungal growth is gonna slow down some of those carriers as well. Still, the mothership being such a massive tank, it is capable of taking so much damage. Prismatic Alignment has been activated. A lot of those corruptors are forced to back up as well. DNS taking the fight and then backing up. What a well-played game. DNS completely dismantling his opponent over the course of 45 minutes. What a game. That was sick. That was really awesome. I actually thought that Nerchio had this one in the bag for like the first 30 minutes. But then it became apparent that he got a little bit impatient with all of those fights, right? It became a little bit difficult for him to remain in the lead. And I guess just the simple fact that DNS took himself the top right-hand corner, he got all of those bases, and then started like trading so cost efficiently. It allowed him to be in such a powerful spot there eventually. I think if Nerchio would have committed a little bit more army supply in the earlier parts of this game to Zergling Hydra run-bys, I think there may have been a chance for Nerchio to delay or at the very least prevent some of those bases from going up. But since DNS got himself that economy that was just as big as the Zerg, and since he made cost-efficient trades, it eventually allowed him to come out ahead just because he spent a couple thousand resources less on his units. Beautiful, beautiful game. I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a game like this every single day, but I'm going to try my very best. So do make sure you hit that subscribe button because, you know, the level of quality right now, as far as the gameplay goes, right? It's been set. It's been set. 2019 is going to be awesome, so I hope you will join me for future videos as well. But guys, thank you very much for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.